The man who controlled billion-dollar deals without blinking suddenly couldn't move his hands. The fork slipped from his fingers, clattering against the fine china, the noise echoing louder than the crowded restaurant around him. On the polished wooden table, right beside his untouched steak, lay something small, folded, and unmistakably familiar. In that moment, Alexander Reed's CEO, industry giant, and master of emotional distance felt his carefully built world crack wide open. Just minutes earlier, Alexander had been invisible in the room, the way powerful men often are. People noticed the tailored suit, the expensive watch, the quiet authority in his posture, but no one really saw him. He preferred it that way. He always ate alone, especially on nights like this. Business had taught him that solitude was safer. Fewer attachments meant fewer weaknesses. Tonight was supposed to be no different. A late dinner, a silent drive home, and another night in his penthouse, staring out at a city that never cared who you were once the lights went out. That was when he noticed them. A family of 4 hovered near the entrance, hesitating under the warm glow of the restaurant lights like birds unsure whether it was safe to land. The mother clutched a thin coat around her shoulders. The father stood stiffly, pride and exhaustion fighting for control of his spine. 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl, stood between them, wide-eyed and painfully quiet. They didn't look dangerous. They didn't look disruptive. They just looked hungry. The host glanced at them, then away, already preparing to say no. Alexander watched, irritation flickering through him not at the family, but at the feeling stirring in his own chest. He didn't get involved. He donated to charities. He wrote checks, that was enough, or so he told himself. But something about the little girl caught his eye. She held a small stuffed bear with 1 missing eye, its fur worn thin by love and time. She whispered something to her mother and smiled, as if trying to make the moment less heavy. Before he could overthink it, Alexander raised his hand. "Put their dinner on my bill," he said calmly, his voice carrying the weight of someone used to being obeyed. "Anything they want." The family froze. The mother's eyes filled with tears she tried desperately to hide. The father swallowed hard, nodding once in gratitude, too proud to speak. The children just stared, unsure if this was real. Alexander didn't look at them again. He hated gratitude. It made things messy. Returned his attention to his phone, telling himself it was just a simple act. Nothing more. But across the room, that dinner changed everything. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, the family ate without rushing. The boy laughed when he tasted the warm soup. The mother closed her eyes as she chewed, as if memorizing the feeling of being full. The father straightened, his shoulders lifting just a bit. And the little girl, Emma, watched Alexander with quiet curiosity, her small hands folded around her glass of water. When the plates were cleared and the family stood to leave, the parents approached Alexander's table. The father said, his voice thick, "We don't have the words. You didn't just buy us dinner, you gave us dignity." Alexander nodded, already signaling the end of the conversation. "Take care of your kids," he replied. "That's thanks enough." The parents guided the boy toward the door, but Emma lingered. She walked slowly to Alexander's table, her shoes barely making a sound against the floor. He noticed her only when she reached up on tiptoe and placed something beside his plate. "Thank you," she whispered, then ran back to her family before he could respond. Alexander frowned and looked down. That was when he froze. On the table lay a small folded paper crayon, its creases precise, careful. His breath caught. His chest tightened. The restaurant noise faded into nothing. 30 years ago, his mother had taught him how to fold paper cranes at the kitchen table of their tiny apartment. They were poor then, so poor that sometimes dinner was just bread and hope. His mother used to say, "When you don't have much, you leave kindness behind. It always finds its way back." On the night she died, she had left a paper crane on his pillow. No one else knew that story. No one. His hands trembled as he unfolded the crane. Inside, written in uneven, childlike letters, were words that struck deeper than any business failure or public scandal ever had. "If you're lonely, you can keep my crane. My mom says lonely people need something to remind them they matter." Alexander stared at the note, his vision blurring, lonely. The word echoed painfully true. He had money, influence, power, and no one waiting for him at home. No laughter, no warmth, just silence. He pushed his chair back so abruptly that it startled nearby diners and rushed outside. The family was already halfway down the street. "Wait," he called. They turned, surprise flashing across their faces. Alexander knelt in front of Emma, ignoring the curious stares, the cold air, the image he was shattering. "Where are you staying tonight?" he asked gently. The parents hesitated. The truth settled heavily between them. "Nowhere permanent," the mother admitted. That night, Alexander didn't go home to his penthouse. He arranged hotel rooms, connected the father with a job interview at one of his companies. He made calls not as a CEO, but as a human being who finally understood that success meant nothing if it was hoarded. Weeks turned into months. The father got the job. The family moved into a small apartment. Emma started school. And every Friday evening, Alexander came over for dinner, not as a benefactor, but as family. They talked. They laughed. They folded paper cranes together at the kitchen table. The loneliness didn't disappear overnight, but it softened. It loosened its grip.